My name is Michael Carter. I'm 42, and 3 years ago my wife handed me divorce papers at her PhD graduation. Right there, front of 500 people clapping for her achievement. The achievement I funded with every dollar I had. 12 years back, Nikki decided being a store owner's wife wasn't enough. She wanted to study sociology, gender dynamics, power structures. I supported her. Took out a second mortgage, sold my profitable store to cover tuition. For 7 years, she lived 3 states away, came home maybe once monthly. I raised Austin, my 17-year-old son from my first marriage, mostly alone. Sent her money like clockwork. Year 5, I got diagnosed with diabetes. Early stage, manageable. Didn't tell her. She had comprehensive exams coming. Didn't want to add stress. The graduation was perfect May weather. Austin and I drove 8 hours, both in new suits. He bought purple flowers because Nikki always said purple was sophisticated. We sat in back, waiting to congratulate Dr. Nicole Carter. When they called her name, the auditorium exploded. She looked radiant in those doctoral robes, smiling like our wedding day. Hugged the dean, posed for photos, then walked straight toward us. I stood, ready to hug her. Austin stood too, holding those flowers. She walked past him without a glance. Stopped in front of me, reached in her robe, pulled out a manila envelope. Her eyes were calm, decided. Michael, I need you to have this. I open it right there. Divorce papers. Printed, official, signed by her, dated today. She planned this. Planned to end us on her beginning. I need space to grow, she said, voice steady as a verdict. This chapter is complete. I'm ready for the next one. Without you. Austin's hand gripped my arm. His flowers hit the floor. People around us went quiet. I looked at those papers. 7 years of sacrifice, 12 years of marriage, reduced to paragraphs and signature lines. My hands didn't shake. I just felt cold, like winter had walked into my chest. You planned this, I said. I did. She glanced at her friends, younger academics, already pulling out phones for celebration photos. One guy, Derek, someone I'd met once, watched us with poorly hidden interest. It's cleaner this way. Cleaner. I pulled out my pen, the one Austin gave me for Christmas. Signed both copies right there in the back row. Handed her one, pocketed mine. Let's go, I told Austin. We walked out while they called more names, while Nikki's friends popped champagne in the lobby, while the woman I'd built a life around celebrated that life's death with strangers. Austin stayed quiet until we reached the truck. Dad, are you okay? I looked at him, this kid I'd raised mostly solo while working myself into early diabetes, and something clicked. I was tired. Bone tired. Soul tired. Tired of being the foundation everyone stood on while pretending I didn't exist. I will be, I told him. We drove home in silence. That wasn't the end, though. It was just the beginning of my disappearance. I didn't go home that night. Didn't go home the next day either. Austin and I checked into a roadside motel 40 miles outside town. The kind of place that takes cash and doesn't ask questions. We sat on those scratchy bedspreads, staring at a television neither of us was watching. Dad, Austin finally said around midnight. What are we doing? Good question. I pulled out my phone, looked at the 3 messages Nikki had already sent. Hey, we should talk. Then, don't be dramatic about this. Then, Michael, we're adults. Let's handle this maturely. 3 messages. After 12 years of marriage, after handing me divorce papers in front of hundreds of people, she thought 3 messages covered it. I turned off my phone. We're leaving, I told Austin. Leaving where? Everything. He looked at me like I'd lost it. Maybe I had. But something had shifted in that auditorium. Something fundamental. I'd spent 7 years being invisible, being the wallet that funded someone else's dreams. I was done being a footnote in Nikki's success story. We spent 3 days in that motel while I made calls, set things in motion. First call was to my business partner, Jerry. Told him I was selling my remaining store. He'd been wanting to buy me out for 2 years. Second call was to my bank. Transferred everything from our joint account to my personal one. Legally mine. I'd been the only one depositing for 7 years anyway. Left her the savings account. Figured she'd earn that much. Third call was the hardest. My lawyer, Pete, a guy I'd known since high school. Told him about the divorce papers. Asked what I needed to do. He was quiet for a long moment. Mike, you signed them already? Yeah. Then you're free to go. She can't contest what she initiated and you agreed to. Asset divisions already outlined, and from what you're telling me, you're entitled to walk away clean. Clean. That word again. On day 4, I bought a burner phone. New number, new service plan. Deleted every social media account I had, which wasn't many to begin with. Deactivated email. Removed myself from every digital platform that made me traceable. In 2021, disappearing wasn't easy, but it was possible if you were deliberate. Austin watched me do all of this without comment. Finally, on day 5, he spoke up. Where are we going? I've been thinking about that. Somewhere small, somewhere nobody knew us. Somewhere I could breathe without the weight of expectations crushing my chest. I remember a fishing trip from 20 years back, a little town called Riverside. Population maybe 5,000, built around a lake and a marina. Quiet. Anonymous. Somewhere better, I told him. He nodded slowly. What about school? I've got 1 year left. They have schools everywhere, son. You'll finish. I promise. We loaded the truck with what mattered. Clothes, photos, Austin's baseball equipment. Left everything else. The furniture, the decorations, the life we'd built that turned out to be just a stage set. I left the house key on the kitchen counter. Didn't leave a note. What'd I say? Thanks for the memories? Hope your new chapter goes well. None of it felt true. Nikki texted again that evening. Just one message. Michael, come on. We're adults. I deleted the text. Drove east with Austin sleeping in the passenger seat and the divorce papers folded in my glove compartment. By the time Nikki realized I wasn't coming back, we were 3 states away, and I'd already started becoming someone she'd never find. Because here's what nobody tells you about disappearing. The world keeps spinning, just quieter. And sometimes, silence is the only honest response to betrayal. Riverside looked exactly like I remembered. Small marina tucked into the curve of a lake. Main street with maybe 15 shops. Population that peaked at 5,000 during summer tourist season. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, which meant nobody knew us. We rented a cabin on the outskirts, 2 bedrooms, furnished month-to-month lease. The owner, an older guy named Walt, didn't ask questions when I paid 3 months up front in cash. Just handed over keys and told us the fishing was good this time of year. Austin enrolled in Riverside High for his senior year. Small school, decent athletics program. Coach took one look at him throwing a baseball and offered him a spot on the team. First time in months, I saw my son smile. I spent the first week just breathing, walking the lake perimeter, sitting on the dock watching the water, letting the silence settle into my bones. No phone calls about store inventory, no midnight emergencies, no expectations. Just quiet. The marina owner, guy named Frank, was struggling. I could see it from 50 yards out. Boats that needed maintenance, docks that needed repair, a whole operation running on duct tape and prayer. I walked in on day 8, introduced myself as Mike. You looking for work or looking to fish? Frank asked, not looking up from his paperwork. Work. I'm good with my hands. Know my way around tools and repairs. He looked up then, studied me for a long moment. You running from something? Yeah. I said honestly. Bad marriage. Worse ending. Just need somewhere quiet to rebuild. Frank nodded slowly. Pay's not great. Cash under the table until we see if you work out. That's fine. I started the next day. Fixing boat motors, repairing dock planks, helping weekend fishermen load gear. Physical work, the kind that made your back ache and your hands rough but left your mind clear. Frank was a good boss, didn't hover, didn't pry. Just showed me what needed doing and let me work. 3 weeks in, I noticed the marina's books were a disaster. Mentioned it casually to Frank over coffee one morning. He laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, I'm a boat guy, not a numbers guy. Been bleeding money for 2 years. Probably sell this place by next summer. Mind if I take a look? I asked. Used to run 2 retail stores. Might spot something. He shrugged, pushed the ledger across. Knock yourself out. Took me 3 days going through everything during slow afternoons. The problems were obvious. Pricing was too low, overhead too high, inventory management non-existent. But the location was prime, the customer base loyal. This place could be profitable with proper management. Frank, I said Friday evening, what if I bought in? Partner up, split ownership. I've got capital, business experience. You've got the expertise and the reputation. He stared at me. You serious? Dead serious. This place has potential. Just needs someone who knows how to run a business. We shook hands that night. By October, I owned 40% of Riverside Marina. By December, we turned our first profit in 3 years. And somewhere during those months, I realized I hadn't thought about Nikki in weeks. My phone, the old one I turned off, sat in a drawer. Sometimes I pull it out, look at the message count climbing. 50, then 70, then over 100. Never open them. Didn't need to. The silence wasn't punishment. It was peace. And I was finally learning what that felt like. By spring, Riverside Marina was thriving. We'd expanded services, added boat rentals, started offering fishing guide packages. Frank handled the water side. I handled everything else. The partnership worked because we respected each other's strengths. Austin was doing well too. Made varsity baseball, got decent grades, even started dating a girl named Emma from his chemistry class. Watching him laugh at the dinner table, talking about normal teenage things, reminded me why I'd left. He'd been carrying my stress for years. Now he was just a kid again. My diabetes stabilized. Regular sleep, better diet, less stress. My A1C numbers dropped to almost normal range. Doctor in town, old guy named Patterson, nodded approvingly at my 6-month checkup. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, he said. You've added years to your life. Years I would have lost grinding myself down for someone who saw me as a utility bill. One afternoon in April, a guy walked into the marina office. Mid-50s, weathered face, confident walk. Introduced himself as Dale Spencer. Owned a construction company 2 towns over. Heard you turned this place around, Dale said, looking around the organized office, the updated dock system. Frank was about to go under before you showed up. Just applied basic business principles, I said. Nothing revolutionary. Still impressive. He pulled out a business card. I'm developing a new property on the North Shore. Mixed use, retail, and residential. Need someone who knows both business management and hands-on work. Interested in consulting. I look at that card. 6 months ago, I would have said no automatically, afraid to take risks, afraid to rock the boat. Now, tell me more, I said. The consulting gig started small. Evenings and weekends, looking at Dale's plans, offering suggestions on layout and vendor management. But Dale was smart enough to actually listen. Within 2 months, he offered me a permanent position as project manager. I can't leave Frank hanging, I told him. So don't. Keep your stake in the marina. Hire a manager for day-to-day operations. This project's going to take 2 years. You'll make enough to buy out Frank completely if you want. I thought about it for exactly 1 night. Then I said yes. By summer, I was managing a multi-million-dollar development project, still owned 40% of a profitable marina, and had more money in my account than I'd ever had during my marriage. Austin got accepted to State University with a partial baseball scholarship. Life was clicking into place. That's when I got the first sign that Nikki was looking for me. A mutual friend from the old neighborhood, guy named Rick, sent a message to Frank's business Facebook page asking if anyone knew Mike Carter. Frank showed me the message. Wanted to respond. No, I said. Just delete it. He nodded, deleted it without another word. But I knew what it meant. She'd stopped sending messages to my old phone. Now she was actively searching. Probably hired someone, a private investigator maybe. The thought didn't scare me. It just made me tired. I'd built something here. Something real, something mine. And I wasn't about to let her dismantle it just because she'd finally realized what she'd thrown away. 2 years in, I bought Frank out completely. He wanted to retire to Florida, spend time with grandkids, and I had the capital. Riverside Marina was now fully mine, profitable, expanding. The consulting work with Dale had turned into a full partnership on 3 developments across 2 counties. My bank account had numbers I never thought I'd see. Austin finished his freshman year at State University with a 3.6 GPA and a starting position on the baseball team. He'd call every Sunday, tell me about classes and games, and this girl Sarah he kept mentioning. He sounded happy. Free. That's what money couldn't buy, but leaving did. Freedom from the weight of someone else's ambitions crushing you into dust. I'd made friends at Riverside. Real ones. Dale and his wife had me over for barbecues. Frank, even retired, stopped by the marina weekly to shoot the breeze. The guys at the hardware store knew my coffee order. I belonged somewhere for the first time in years. My diabetes was under control. Dr. Patterson was talking about reducing my medication. You're healthier at 44 than most men at 30, he said at my annual checkup. Whatever life changes you made, they saved you. I thought about that drive from the university, Austin silent beside me, both of us running from a woman who'd made me invisible. Those changes had saved me. Literally. Then Rick, the old friend from before, showed up at the marina on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the office going over invoices when he walked in, looking uncomfortable. "Mike," he said, "we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. "How'd you find me?" "Nikki hired someone. Private investigator. She's been looking for you for over a year. And you're here because she paid me to confirm you were here." He had the decency to look ashamed. Said she just wanted closure, just needed to talk. Offered me $2,000 to verify your location. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not fear, just resignation. "You take the money." "Not yet. Wanted to warn you first." "Mike, she's different now. Lost her position at the think tank. Something about research irregularities. Her social media's gone quiet. I think she's desperate." "Not my problem," I said. "She's your wife, man." "Ex-wife. Papers were signed 3 years ago. She made her choice at that graduation ceremony." I stood up. "You want a $2,000? Take it. Tell her exactly where I am. But Rick, when she shows up, and she will, I'm not the same guy who walked out of that auditorium. She's going to find that out the hard way." He left without the money. Told me later he couldn't take it. But the damage was done. She knew where I was now. I called my lawyer, Pete. Told him what was coming. He pulled the divorce records, confirmed everything was finalized. No loopholes. "She can't touch your business or assets," Pete said. "Everything you've built since the separation is yours." "Good," I said, "because I'm not giving her a damn thing." Austin called that night. "Dad, Nikki contacted me on Instagram. Wants to know where you are. Says she needs to apologize." "What did you tell her?" "Blocked her." "But Dad," she sounded really desperate. Like, crying in voice messages desperate. "That's not your burden to carry, son. She made choices. Now she lives with them." "I know. Just wanted you to know she's trying every angle." After we hung up, I sat on my porch overlooking the lake. The water was calm, reflective, peaceful. I'd built this life from nothing. Turned pain into profit, betrayal into business success. Nikki could come looking. She could show up at my door. But the man she'd handed those papers to, the one who'd funded her dreams while losing himself, he was gone. And the man who replaced him didn't need her closure. Nikki arrived 3 weeks later on a Thursday morning. I was at the marina office when a rental car pulled into the lot. I knew before she stepped out. Something about the way she hesitated, gathering courage. She looked different. Thinner, tired. The confidence she'd worn like armor at graduation had been stripped away. She walked toward the office in jeans and a sweater. No designer clothes, no polished academic veneer. Just a woman who'd lost something and finally realized it. I stepped outside before she reached the door. "Nikki." She stopped, eyes searching my face. "Michael, you look good." "I am good. Can we talk?" We were talking. She flinched. "Can we talk inside? Privately?" "No. Say what you came to say right here." People were watching now. Dale had just pulled up for our morning meeting. A couple of marina customers had paused their boat prep. Let them watch. I had nothing to hide. "I made a mistake," Nikki said, voice shaking. "A huge mistake. I shouldn't have done it that way, at graduation. I was caught up in the moment, in what I thought was freedom. But I was wrong." "Okay," I said flatly. "Okay, that's all you have to say." "What do you want me to say?" "You handed me divorce papers at your graduation 3 years ago. I signed them. I left. You got what you wanted. I didn't want this." Her voice rose. "I didn't want to lose my position, my reputation, everything I worked for." There was. Not regret about me. Regret about her consequences. "What happened to the think tank?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She looked away. "There were accusations about my dissertation research. Nothing proven, but enough questions that they let me go. And Derek, he was seeing someone else the whole time. I thought we were building something, but I was just convenient." "Derek." "The colleague who'd watched us at graduation with too much interest." "Of course. I've been trying to reach you for a year," she continued. "Messages, emails, I even contacted Austin. You ignored everything. Every single message I sent. I saw them come in," I said calmly. "Just never opened them." Her face fell. "You saw them and didn't even read them. Didn't need to. You said everything that mattered at your graduation. The rest was just noise." "Michael, please. I know I hurt you, but we had 12 years together. That has to count for something." "It counted for everything," I said. Right up until you handed me those papers and laughed with your friends while I walked out. You got your space to grow, Nikki. I hope it was worth it. Dale cleared his throat behind me. Mike, we've got that meeting. Be right there. I looked at Nikki one last time. You need to leave now. This is private property. I came all this way. That's not my problem. You want a closure? Here it is. We're done. We've been done. And whatever you're going through now, whatever consequences caught up with you, I'm not your solution. Find your own way out. I walked past her into the office. Through the window, I watched her stand there for 5 minutes, maybe hoping I'd come back out. I didn't. Finally, she got in her car and drove away. Dale whistled low. That was cold, brother. That was necessary, I said. Let's talk about the Harbor Point project. We worked through the morning like nothing had happened. Because for me, nothing had. My life was here now, built on foundations she'd never touched. And I was keeping it that way. Nikki didn't give up. 2 days after our marina confrontation, legal papers arrived. She was suing for half the value of Riverside Marina, claiming it was built with marital assets. Her lawyer argued that the money I'd withdrawn from our joint account had been used as seed capital. Therefore, she was entitled to compensation. Pete looked over the filing and laughed. She's desperate. This won't hold up. You withdrew money you deposited from businesses you owned before the marriage. The divorce was finalized 3 years ago with clear asset division. She signed off on everything. So we fight it. We crush it. And Mike, I think it's time to go public with your side. She's been painting you as the bad guy. People should know the truth. I thought about that. Staying silent had been strategic, self-protective. But maybe silence had served its purpose. Austin called that evening. Dad, Nikki's posting about you again. Says you're hiding assets that you owe her for supporting your business dreams. It's all over her Instagram. Her Instagram that had been dark for months was suddenly active again, rewriting history in real time. Screenshot everything, I told Austin. We're going to need it. The next morning, I did something I'd avoided for 3 years. I created a new social media account, posted one thing, a photo of the divorce papers she'd handed me at graduation, with a simple caption. She handed me these at her PhD graduation while her friends celebrated. I signed them, walked away, and built a life. Now she wants half of what I built without her. The truth matters. Within hours, it went viral. People who knew us from before started commenting, sharing their own stories about how I'd supported her through graduate school. Former neighbors posted about watching me work multiple jobs while she was away. Austin shared a post about watching his stepmom humiliate his father publicly. Nikki's narrative crumbled under the weight of actual testimony from people who'd been there. Rick, the friend who'd warned me she was looking, posted a long comment about how I'd sold my profitable store to fund her education. Dale posted about finding me working at the marina, rebuilding from nothing. Frank shared how I'd saved his business and treated everyone with respect. The community I'd built was defending me without me asking. That meant more than any legal victory. Nikki tried to respond, posted about context and complexity, but the damage was done. People saw through it now. The comments on her posts turned brutal. You handed him divorce papers at your own graduation. You're suing him for money he earned after you left. This is why nobody trusts academic feminists. She deleted everything within 24 hours. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots live forever. Pete called that afternoon. Her lawyer just called. They're withdrawing the lawsuit. I think the public response spooked them. Good, I said. Send her a bill for our legal fees. You sure? Might look petty. She tried to take what I built from nothing. I'm sure. That evening, sitting on my porch watching the sunset over the lake, I felt something shift. Not closure, exactly. More like completion. I defended myself without becoming cruel. Told the truth without exaggeration. And the people who mattered had stood with me. Summer came, and with it, unexpected attention. The local paper ran a feature on Riverside Marina's turnaround, from struggling dock to profitable enterprise. They interviewed Frank, Dale, employees. Everyone talked about my work ethic, my integrity, how I'd invested in the community. The article mentioned, briefly, that I'd rebuilt my life after a difficult divorce. Didn't name Nikki, didn't go into details. Just acknowledged that I'd started over and made it work. The mayor's office called in July. Riverside was doing their annual business awards, and I'd been nominated for community impact. The ceremony was in August, small town affair with maybe 200 people, but it meant something. Recognition that I contributed, that I belonged. Austin came home for it, brought Sarah, his girlfriend. Watching them together, seeing him happy and confident, reminded me why all of this had mattered. I'd broken the cycle, shown him that you could walk away from toxicity and build something better. The ceremony was at the community center. Dale and his wife were there, Frank and half the marina staff, neighbors, customers, people I come to know. Sharon from Pinewood Manufacturing even drove down, said she'd heard about the award and wanted to support me. When they called my name, the applause was genuine. I walked up, accepted the plaque, looked out at faces that had become family. 3 years ago, I said, I came to Riverside with nothing but a truck and a need to start over. This town gave me a chance to rebuild, to prove that endings can become beginnings. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who believed in second chances. Thank you. Simple speech. Honest. The applause afterwards felt like acceptance. At the reception, an older woman approached me. Distinguished, probably mid-60s, sharp eyes. Mr. Carter, I'm Margaret Brennan. I've been following your story, the business turnaround, and the personal resilience. I run a nonprofit that helps people rebuild after major life disruptions. Would you ever consider speaking about your experience? Speaking, workshops, maybe some podcast interviews. There are a lot of men out there going through similar situations. Your story could help them see a path forward. I thought about the messages I'd received after posting those divorce papers. Men thanking me for speaking up, sharing their own stories of being erased in relationships. Maybe there was something there. Let me think about it, I said. She handed me a card. No pressure. But the offer stands. Driving home that night, Austin in the passenger seat like old times, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not the hollow pride of achievement for someone else's benefit, but real pride in what I'd built with my own hands and choices. Dad, Austin said, I'm proud of you. Just wanted you to know that. Thanks, son. That means everything. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. I saw the article about your award. Congratulations. You deserved better than what I gave you. I'm sorry. N. I showed it to Austin. He shook his head. You going to respond? I deleted the message. No point. That chapter's closed. And it was, finally, completely closed. Margaret Brennan's nonprofit offer turned into something bigger than expected. Started with one workshop for divorced men, 20 guys in a community center talking about rebuilding. I shared my story honestly. The sacrifices, the public humiliation, the decision to walk away and start over. The response was overwhelming. Men came up afterwards shaking my hand, some with tears. I thought I was weak for wanting to leave. They kept saying, leaving takes more strength than staying sometimes. I told them, knowing when to walk away is wisdom, not weakness. Margaret asked me to do more workshops, then podcast interviews. My story resonated because it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming yourself. The marina continued thriving. Dale and I finished Harbor Point, which brought significant profit. I was approaching a net worth I'd never dreamed of while married to Nikki. Austin graduated with honors, got drafted by a minor league baseball team. Watching him sign that contract reminded me why I'd made the choices I did. He'd watched his father refuse to be a doormat. That lesson would serve him forever. One evening, I got an email from a stranger named Richard in Oregon. He'd heard my podcast interview, related every word. Been married 15 years, supporting his wife through law school. She'd filed for divorce the day she made partner. He'd been drowning in anger until he heard me talk about choosing peace over payback. Your story gave me permission to walk away with my head high, he wrote. I'm starting over at 47, and for the first time in years, I feel hopeful. I sat with that for a long time. 3 years ago, I'd been the guy driving away from graduation with divorce papers in my pocket. Now, I was helping other men find their way through similar darkness. Pain had transformed into purpose. Frank called that night. Mike, you watching the news? Nikki's ex-colleague Derek just got fired. Ethics violations, inappropriate relationships with subordinates. Karma's working overtime. Derek, who'd watched our marriage implode with interest, who'd probably been involved with Nikki before the divorce, now facing his own reckoning. Good, I said simply. People who use others eventually get used themselves. I thought about writing a book, not about Nikki specifically, but about the journey from devastation to reconstruction. Something that could help the next guy who got handed divorce papers at his wife's triumph. The lake was calm that night, reflecting stars. I found something here that went beyond business success. I found myself again. The version that existed before I learned to shrink for someone else's expansion. And that version was never shrinking again. 14 months later, I got a call from an attorney. This is Sarah Chun from Hartwell and Associates. I'm handling estate matters for Nicole Carter. Miss Carter passed away last week. Car accident. The world tilted. Nikki was dead. There's a letter she left with instructions to deliver to you, the attorney said. The letter arrived 3 days later. I sat on my porch at sunset, envelope in hand, deciding if I wanted to open it. Finally, I did. Michael, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to know something. You were right about everything. I used you, took your sacrifices for granted, threw you away when I didn't need you anymore. Losing everything was the best thing that happened to me. Only at rock bottom did I understand what I destroyed. You gave me 7 years of unconditional support, and I repaid you with public humiliation. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm just asking that you remember there was a time when I loved you before I loved the idea of myself more. That girl who married you is real. I just lost her. You built something beautiful from the ashes. I followed your workshops, heard you helping people heal. That's who you always were, someone who built while I destroyed. Thank you for everything, even though I never deserved it. And thank you for walking away when I needed to face consequences. Live well, Michael. You earned it. Nikki. I read it twice, then folded it. Felt the sting behind my eyes, but didn't cry. This wasn't grief for losing her. It was grief for what could have been. Austin called that evening. I told him about Nikki. You okay, Dad? Yes, son. I'm more in this relationship years ago. This is just the official ending. You going to the funeral? No. That's for people who were still in her life. 11 months later, life looked nothing like it had during my marriage. The marina generated steady income. I was doing consulting and workshops full-time. Austin was playing AA baseball, engaged to Sarah. I'd started dating Emily, a widow who owned a bookstore. Nothing serious yet, just enjoying each other's company. On the 3-year anniversary of that graduation ceremony, I drove to the lake alone, brought the divorce papers, the ones I'd kept filed away. Sat on the dock, thought about that auditorium moment, the shock and humiliation, the choice to walk away instead of fighting for someone who didn't want to be kept. I tore those papers slowly into pieces and scattered them across the water. Watched them float away, dissolving into the lake, becoming part of something bigger. My phone buzzed. Austin texting a photo of him and Sarah at practice. Caption: Hope you're having a good day, Pops. Love you. I smiled, typed back. Love you too, son. Life is good. And it was. Finally, completely good. Not because Nikki was gone or because I'd achieved success, but because I'd learned the most important lesson that graduation day. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is sign the papers and walk away. Build something new from nothing. Refuse to let bitterness poison what you're creating. The sun set over Riverside, painting the sky in colors that looked like hope. I sat there until dark, at peace with everything that had been and everything yet to come. This was my life now, built on my terms, filled with people who valued me, defined by strength instead of sacrifice. And I was never giving that up again.